As we come on air tonight, we are following breaking news out of Monterey County. A large fire has erupted at the Moss Landing power plant. Some evacuations are underway close to that plant, and some residents have been ordered to close all of their windows and doors and turn their air conditioning off. The CHP says Highway 1 is shut down in that area to all traffic. There is no word at this point when it's going to reopen. This is video from the ground at Moss Landing. Fire crews and EMS, along with hazmat crews, made it to the scene. Our sister station, KION, reports that those crews appear to be letting the fire burn itself out. You can see the flames just roaring into the night sky, largely unchecked. This is time-lapse video from one of the alert wildfire cameras. The plant is a battery storage facility. It's operated by a company called Vistra Energy. Let's go ahead and bring in Darren Peck at this point.
Okay, we've been watching that video of that plume of smoke that's been coming off that fire stay fairly stationary. It hasn't really moved much. We can actually see where this fire is, Devin, on the virtual map, so we're going to have to take a big swing, and we're going to go down past the Santa Cruz Mountains. We're going to go down past Monterey Bay. This is a nighttime reading satellite image which can detect the heat signature coming off that fire. So what you're going to see when we get down to Moss Landing, it's a long trip, and it's all the way down in that bottom right-hand corner, is a little black smudge, which actually looks a little less apparent right now than it did even just a few hours ago, but you can see it right on the border of our map. So that little dark smudge on there is the heat signature coming off that the satellite can read from this, and that's probably the most useful tool that we have to take a look at this. Let's come back, and I'll put this into a little more perspective, and instead of trying to pick out the heat signature on there, let me do a little more detailed overview on this and show you where that is and what's burning, because that's going to be a real helpful piece of information. This is a very industrial little plot of land. In other words, this is not a repeat of the fires that we've just lived through for the last week in Southern California. That is the Vistra energy plant, which is really a lithium battery production facility. So this is off the radar for most of us. But when something like that catches fire, it's going to take a long time for it to go out. The good news is there's nothing overtly flammable near it. That's Elkhorn Slough up there. It's a very wet landscape, and it's not like there are homes that this can go into at this point. The fire is also not moving. Look at the last 3 hours in a time lapse on it, and you're going to see just as we get to sunset, a big plume of smoke comes off and then pretty much sits stationary. It doesn't grow in intensity, but it also doesn't weaken. Hasn't really gotten any less intense than when it started, but there's a number of things you can take away from watching that. Primarily, this is not a fire that is spreading to other structures. That's great news. The other downside of it is it's a fire that is not weakening. So the number one concern from this would be the air quality for the communities in and around there. Now, the local authorities have already put out the messaging on this for anybody who's near that, down by Moss Landing. Make sure you keep the windows closed. Make sure you don't run the air conditioner, because the air conditioner will pull in air from the outside. It's not like there's terribly strong wind blowing this one way or the other, but in general, in that time lapse, the smoke was going inland. And it's not the particulate matter we'd be concerned about. That's what we would normally talk about during wildfires, the size of the particles. I can look at all the air quality sensors down there, and they're not even reading a problem from a particulate matter standpoint. But what we'd be concerned about here is not the particles. We'd be concerned about the chemical makeup of that smoke and you not wanting to breathe that in. That's probably the number one concern now for any of the communities in and around there. So just make sure you keep the windows closed.